Hey guys, this is Sarah's Night.
Hey, Lantis.
And you know, we were having a nice little nostalgia trek during our hangout this period. Lantis just happened to be playing Xenogears.
Yep.
When I came in, I was like, when was the last time you played that? I was like, it was probably college, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I was like, come to think, somewhere in college was the last time I played that, so it's... So I was just like, well, you know, instead of getting on to Final Fantasy VII Remake, let's just hang out while playing Xenogears.
And so we did.
Yeah.
But we made sure to make enough time to...
Oh yeah, I forgot. We're fighting for the fate of the world!
Right.
That's why you ran away and left for America, isn't it?
You know what I was quoting from, right? Dude, that's so wrong. It's only like the best video game movie ever.
Oh, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah, absolutely.
Which, that almost makes it sound like an insult.
I mean, it is what it is. And here we are.
Yeah, honestly, Mortal Kombat probably would be in like my top 20, 30 movies of all time.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. It's a good movie.
Fat Man Gordo's here.
Now that's a Jolly Roger right there.
How did these guys all know to come here to me?
Actually, that's a good question. I guess because the world's not that big.
It really isn't.
Drachma, there's... We used to fly in that thing.
I don't know why, I just love Aika's happy faces. I was kind of hoping we get a chance to do some... Well, I'm sure we will later after this scene, but I don't know, we might have to go into the penultimate dungeon beforehand, where it's like we climb aboard Galcian's ship and confront him personally, which, by the way, looks stupid.
Wait, how many dungeons do we have
What
left?
kind of ship is that?
How many dungeons do we have before the penultimate dungeon?
Do you know what penultimate means?
The one right before the final one.
Then that's 2.
Yes. No, but I'm saying how many are there before that one? How many dungeons?
0. We're going there right now.
Okay, so we're going
That's
to the
what I
penultimate.
meant by, you know, I'll probably have to do the penultimate dungeon first before I can get back onto... Well, eventually you're not going to have a world to rule over if you do that too often, but, sure, buddy.
Yes, my lord.
Every time I see Ramirez's name, I just think of the Highlander movies.
All of them in general?
Yep. To which only one was good.
I mean, there can be only one.
There should have been only one. Makes me miss Spoony times, though. I mean, the only reason I even knew of any Highlander sequel and how bad they were was first because of him.
By the way, so, I don't know if you ever saw... Did you see the, Down the Rabbit Hole video about Spoony?
Yeah, that's like a couple of years old, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. But somehow my wife ended up finding Fredrik's channel, and she was actually watching the Down the Rabbit Hole video for Spoony, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, dude, I love this dude. This dude has a great channel. You should watch more of his stuff. So she watched all the Spoony stuff, and she went down to the comments, and apparently somebody posted an update on Spoony that was 2 months old. And,
I think I heard something about he lost his house. He couldn't pay for it.
yeah, that's one of the things.
Sometime this year, maybe. Or maybe it was last year.
Also, he ran a red light, putting 2 other people in the hospital. And he's living with his parents, and his...
Well, good. Maybe they'll be able to, you know, straighten him up while also keeping him from suicide or something.
And his girlfriend left him.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So, oh, so you heard about everything but the car crash?
Yeah.
Well, that's... apparently he still does streams, but they're like really, really sporadic and not very often. And when he does, he doesn't interact with the chat or anything. He just plays the game. Sad.
How do you find out what these things do again?
I don't know.
There's a description, something. Oh, there it is.
You found it.
God, eat up there, fatty.
You saw me put them all right there. Shut up. Mind your own business. But yeah, I used to be like a really big fan of Spoony's work.
Well, who wasn't?
Like I was even active on his forums back in the day.
Oh yeah, I remember he used to say like, "Oh yeah, and this other guy, Sarah's Knight's coming." Just and I never did.
No.
So I made you look like you had an invisible friend,
No.
imaginary friend.
How do I know you're not?
Well, that creates a real existentialist crisis for me. Thank you. If I'm crying on my pillow when I get back home tonight, I know who to blame.
Oh, really? Am I to blame?
I'm gonna turn into a real Vivi there.
But if you don't exist, is anybody really crying on their pillow?
Aha. You know, I may not be real, but I still have feelings, man. What you just said cuts deep. Considering how cheap Full Hills are.
You know, there's a part of me that's like, you know, Spoony, it's gotta come back eventually, right? But I don't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I still keep all of his reviews that I liked when he was active. I still listen to, like, Highlander 5 was like the best review ever.
I still like what was that game that had Dalit Jelly?
The Ring Terrors.
Yeah.
I actually love how he would, you know, find something stupid like that and just latch onto it for so long and just keep ranting.
Yeah.
The noise and the Dalit Jelly.
I have to know.
Please, somebody, like, if you can find Dalit Jelly, send me a sample of it in the mail or something so that I can taste it before I die. I have to know what it tastes like. Oh yeah, who's the man? Well, as I send like a crew of 100 people plummeting to their deaths.
Or listen to my story.
No! Fuck you! Fuck your story, it sucks! It's like, you know what? I like the story of FF2 and I still find it funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, I think overall Final Fantasy VIII is a better game than not. I'm gonna tell that to you right now. And
I try, like, there's a part of me that wants that desires to fight for it, but it just, with the weird mechanics of junctioning, which they work, they're fine, they work, but it's just weird. You have to admit it's strange, and the story that doesn't make sense. So much so that a fan theory about how Squall is dead at the end of the first disc makes more sense out of the game than the game itself presents. That just looks bad for the game.
Well, I mean, the point is, even the stuff he made fun of that I like, I still totally would listen to those reviews because they're funny.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes he has legitimately good points. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. Absolutely.
Listen to my story. No! Fuck your story, it sucks! Like, that just sets him off instantly because it's Titus talking.
Or the friggin' Ultima series, his Ultima reviews were so good.
Well, yeah, guys, if you somehow have no idea who we're talking about, even though that's probably easily one of the earliest, most well-known reviewers on the internet, well, I don't think he has his own channel anymore, per se, but there are plenty of YouTubers who, you know, put up his videos for... I even have, like, a couple of, like, clip videos of stuff I found funny, like, not full reviews and stuff that I posted in my own channel, so... Like the What's a Paladin clip.
What's a paladin?
What? No, wait, that was her... The Codex of Infinite Wisdom. What? The Codex of Infinite... Why do I keep wanting to say Intimate Wisdom? What?
The Codex of Infinite... or when he opens up the treasure chest and gets flung into the water after it explodes and he... No! 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 No!
It's about fucking... What? No! No! No!
I don't even know how he got that high-pitched.
Yeah. Is that what this video is going to be? Just us going over Spoony old times?
So, here's the thing, right? Like, AVGN was the originator of that genre. He basically made it like an entire genre of YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who wanted to be a reviewer after that pretty much was going by his example, you know?
And just kind of, like, made it their own somehow. Like, there are a lot of people that I still watch today that whose roots were basically following in the footsteps of James Rolfe, right? Like, one of the creators I like a lot originally made the Happy Video Game Nerd, where he actually talked about obscure or really good games that he likes and would like to celebrate. And
it was Skies of Arcadia ever one of them?
No. Yeah, but I mean, he did cover a lot of things. But eventually, he kind of dropped that stick and ended up making his own entirely unique content that goes by the name "Stop Skeletons from Fighting" now. And he's a good creator. But it's humble roots, right? And I do believe that Spoony himself was following that same path. It's just that, man, some really bad things just unfolded for him. I honestly have to say, of which were his own creation, but ugh.
You know, like, I wasn't near as big a fan of James Rolfe. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's obviously a good guy, and there's definitely a lot of nostalgia with him, but as to, like, watching his reviews, I actually barely do any of that, because just too much of the, like, the shit jokes and everything just kind of gets on my nerves. But, I mean, I'm not saying he himself overall is... I mean, and I do, like, a few reviews from that I'll go back to. I'll just kind of edit out all that crap. But like, one of my favorite James Rolfe moments was actually like really early on, probably just a couple years in. He's probably been doing it. He's been doing this since like 2006, so probably like 14 years now.
Is that real? Oh man,
yeah.
that just hit me with a year-old feeling.
Like, that's the amount of time it took for me to be born between that and my first day of high school. That's really putting it into perspective for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm already a teenager and everything. But one of my favorite moments from him was he was reviewing that horrible Atari Jaguar CD that like just was notorious for just not working. Period.
Right.
And he said something like, "Jaguar, I've had enough from you. I've had about all I can take." And then you hear like this stock tiger sound. And he goes, so it stops him in his tracks. He goes, did you just growl at me? And like the Atari Jaguar like cube with the like leopard faces on him on each side, like comes out to attack, comes out of the system to attack him. He's like, ah, you know, and he sicks his cat after it, and it like chases the logo all around the den before like running up the stairs with it. And he's like, oh, whew. Well, that's settled. Yeah, that's the real Atari Jaguar right there. He's talking to his cat.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like, that's actually, it's moments
mean,
like that. That's my favorite.
It's honestly, that's kind of the kind of cheese I was kind of going through for my Parasite Eve 3 review when I went back in time to shoot myself.
What? How? I'm sorry. It's for the best. No! You just you fade to black and you just hear like this real echoey gunshot. Like really sinking it home that, you know, you shot yourself right in the head and you ain't coming back from that.
And I come back to the present, I'm like, yeah, there, and now I don't have to live with the knowledge of having played that game. But wait a minute, if I kill myself in the past, that means
I can't exist in the present. No! Okay, guys, I'm gonna link you to Lantis' Parasite Eve 3 video in the notes section below this. It's good, especially considering that was your first and only review ever.
I think it's like I think you're giving me more credit than what's due.
Dude, for a non-professional, especially for a guy who didn't ask for money, crowdfunding, anything like that, you did good. I'm sorry.
I apologize. But yeah, well, the thing is, like, Parasite Eve 1 and 2, I love the Parasite series. And Third Birthday really just...
well, lured me right into a trap. Okay, go ahead.
It really cut me deep. It cut me real deep.
Dude, I haven't played it myself, and I say it is the worst game ever. That's not a joke. That's not hyperbole. I mean, hyperbole.
Hyperbole.
That's the worst game I've ever heard of, played, seen, however you want, whatever you want to say. It is the worst.
The ultimate betrayal. It
is
single-handedly killed the series.
I don't know how you get to be a bigger betrayal than like what Ultima 9 was. Not just in Spoony's eyes. All you had to do was take the journey with him through his reviews. I'd only heard of Ultima before and just know a little bit about it, just, you know, through osmosis over the, you know, many years, because it's as old as like when the NES first came out.
That's older than that, I think.
Yeah. So
Ultima was on like Commodore 64 originally, I want to say, right?
And even then, how much detail he went into his review showing us everything that happens, I can easily say I totally feel for him in the the final video in that series on Ultima 9, because that was the ultimate. He said this was the reason I was leading up to this, so you could see just how like far the series fell with this game. And as soon as the Dupree came back to life, it's like I had been playing those games myself and been a fan all these years. Like, no. They didn't do that. You can't. There are so many things wrong with that in so many different ways. I totally understand, like, genuine anger and frustration at that. Like, not even just doing it for the sake of humor in the video, no. I totally understand why that would genuinely piss him off. Like, that is betrayal. And sadly, Parasite Eve 3 is, like, just as big as that, if not more. Like, overall as a game, not just one specific thing in the game. I think like the character assassination of Maida and Aya in that game is almost as bad. That's almost as bad as like the Dupree coming back to life.
But
and basically undoing having saved the entire universe, all of reality as we know it. That's another thing. I didn't play Ultima 7 Serpent Isle myself. And that was like in the same series as Ultima 9. It's one of the best stories I've ever heard. That definitely sounds so interesting and like so much where the most is at stake. You get that sense most of all in any game I've ever like heard of, at least heard of, if not played. Like literally just the entire universe, all of reality, every dimension, everywhere is at stake. Entire existence of all living things, anywhere, all matter, anything to or nothing. That's what Dupre's sacrifice meant, to keep, you know, the bad end of the deal on that from happening.
Yep.
And he comes back to life. You can't do that. Like, guys, I mean, check out, just type in Spoony 1 Ultima series. You're bound to find a channel that's got, like, all those perfectly preserved. I mean, I got them all myself, like, saved on my PC. But, I mean, I'm not going to upload them all. But you'll find them. Take the journey from beginning to end. It's funny, and towards the end, you get to see how bad it all turned out with Ultima 9, and you feel for Spoony. Even if you've never even heard of the series before, if you take the journey from beginning to end on that, you'll see. And Ultima 7 truly did, Serpent's Isle truly did sound like one of the best, most intriguing plots in all RPGs. And then in the same series, 2-3 games later, it's like one of the worst stories of all time because of how many things it turns on its head and just screws right in the big old backside.
What's a paladin?
Like, even that, I understand what they meant. Like, that was the way of introducing first-time players to the backstory so you can better understand what's going on. It's just that was not a really good way of doing it because it makes the Avatar look stupid. Or, like, he just suffered complete and total memory loss. Spoony's great. What's about... Show it again.
What's a paladin?
Again.
What's a paladin?
Again!
What's a paladin? What's a paladin?
Dude, if you hadn't seen him in a while, go, you know, just sit down
Maybe
one evening after work, and I mean, that'll probably take a good 4 or 5 hours. Pretty much all your time, you know, on a normal work day from between, you know, when you get home and you go to sleep. But it's good.
So I'm off all week next week for Thanksgiving. I think I might just do an Ultima party.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I played through a good bit of Ultima 4 when I got on that NES clone that I happened to find several years ago, like when Spoony, like in the middle of when Spoony was still doing this series, like 2010, 2011, and it is really good. I mean, I personally didn't think so, but only because I didn't grow up in that age, you know, with RPGs. It was a long time later before I even knew what RPGs were. But I can see why Spoony, with, you know, that was like Ultima 4 was in particular one of Spoony's favorite games of all time. The fact that it didn't even have in some ways a story. I mean, I guess technically it does, but there's like no villain, no like conflict really. But it was still really intriguing. That was a really, you know, fascinating way of playing a game. It's like it's a quest for enlightenment. There's no villain to fight, and you have to make ethical choices that make it harder on you as the player. You have to suffer various difficulties for it in order to, you know, achieve the ultimate goal of becoming like the champion of virtue, of all things good. Like, that's cool. I like that. It's
unique. Like, you don't see that really.
Yeah.
And that's coming from our generation where basically that's the entire gameplay of some games is choosing between being, you know, eventually being a good person or a bad person, right? Like your Dragon Age or your Mass Effect, or just all these other games, or you just basically have alignment endings, and you just, I don't know.
Well, I don't think this dude's brought out the big guns yet, but I can't wait for it. I just looked over real quick. I was like, hey, did I remember to press record?
Oh, that would have been funny.
Yeah, that would have sucked. Funny in that derisive way. How do I miss that almost perfectly stationary giant... Really? Well, I say let's attack the hull. That sounds like I don't know.
Put a hole in the hull.
Point of vulnerability. I could be totally dumb on this. What does Hyper Wax do? Oh, that's cool. Doubling the rate of spirit restoration. You know what, let's just focus on that. I like to think I'm not going to lose all my HP in this one turn, even if I leave myself wide open. Just really get revved up there. And kind of have a few turns to go all out. Again, that doesn't even look like a ship. The Hydra looks stupid. I don't like its shape. I don't like its size. I don't like its design. I do not like it, Sam I am. Not with green eggs, not with ham. I don't think that's how that rhyme went, but nevertheless. Do you remember Spoony's Pumpkinhead review? Now that also truly looked like easily, like if I played it, I would easily have thought it was one of the worst games of all time, easily. I mean, pretty much on a level of Parasite Eve 3. It's the way he goes off at the end when, like, he gets his inventory wiped out. Like, the purpose in that, you know, I think basically it was like he came back, I don't know, a year later and, like, revisited the game in a review, which he did with somebody else, just saying, like, how does this game end? And this dude he was reviewing it with had somehow figured out a way to beat the game. And, like, that's one of the bad things about the Pumpkinhead game was the fact that you couldn't figure out what you were supposed to do. What was the objective? Yeah. And this guy, Lord Cat, I don't know how I remember because I only saw that thing like once, that secret review, where it was just them sitting in front of the TV and Lord Cat was explaining. It was like, okay, what you have to do is this, this, and this. It was such obscure, detailed stuff that you couldn't possibly figure out on your own. And, you know, so, like, it showed in that, like, sequel review was that was basically what he had to do in the first place was...
You don't want to hypercannon? Yeah, there you go.
Collect all those items. Because they need to be used for something. At least most of them. Some of them were really worthless, but it was like you were also on a time limit. The game was going to punish you if you didn't figure out what to do with them fast enough. When it was already obscure and you should have had all the time you really needed in order to do that, and they all just got taken away, and he has to go back and do all that over again in a game that already has crappy gameplay.
Yep.
And so it was like, screw that noise. It was like, so he throws down the controller. He's like, you know, if ever a demon actually wanted to rise up from the bowels of hell and take vengeance upon the entire world, there's no better way than this, because this isn't a game, it's fucking punishment. The way you can really see his lips like kind of like, you know, purse in and then flare out on punishment. To really emphasize
fucking punishment.
This game is unholy, it's so bad. And then just gets up and leaves the camera view. By the way, that Moonstone Cannon, Hydra's got a lot of HP.
Yeah, it did. That did very little damage.
No, it was 20,000. That was a good amount of damage. Just that barely took a chunk out of his total HP rating here. Holy crap! But somehow the torpedo did just as
more
good.
Damage.
Uh-oh. What we got here?
The Hydra Cannon.
Okay, you know what? That sounds like something I could easily avoid because it's like...
Well, that's a Death Star beam if ever I've seen one.
It seems like I could just... Does that cannon even turn? Can it?
That did not as much damage as it looked like it should have.
Yeah. I figured that'd be at least half your HP. Well, the torpedo seems to have it, but first, you know what? In order to kind of... Let's see if we got something here that will, like, better ensure that it lands.
And speaking of super, betrayal in video games, I have to throw it out to Final Fantasy 13. You know? The whole ending.
Oh, yeah.
the part where it's like, we have... The entire game is built up towards... Should we say we have to save Orphan, and then the final boss morphs into Orphan, becoming one with it, and the characters don't even have any kind of inner turmoil, like, oh my god, we have to kill the thing that we've you know, we've committed to save. Like, we're going to destroy Cocoon by doing this. That conflict never happened. They were just like, oh, well, he's in, Archangelus is in now, let's go kill him now. And also...
Yeah, I mean, Spoony was right. Yeah, Spoony also reviewed Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
Guys, for, you know, for those of you who do not know. Like, he was right. That was basically like, what they had to do was just pull this, like, you know, with the power of love and friendship, we made a miracle happen in which, you know, somehow killing Orphan was not going to destroy Cocoon. It has basically been held over your head as, like,
yeah,
you know, the ultimate conflict in the story. This is what's going to happen, and this is likely the focus that the Fal'Cie wanted you to destroy the world, then by destroying Orphan. So just put all that, you know, to make all that null and void to where destroying Orphan wouldn't, you know, was actually the right thing to do, and that it wouldn't destroy the world. They just had to pull out this, like, you know, with the power of love and friendship, you know, it's just a miracle that it didn't do what has been, you know, what has been held as, like, you know, prophecy of doom over us, like, the entire game. It did, and you cannot use, you know, like, some, you know, sappy, you know, sweet and sugary, you know, My Little Pony-esque. You can't use that kind of, like, theme in a game like Final Fantasy 13 where the party spends pretty much the whole entire game hating each other. You don't get to do that.
Amen! They hated each other. And you might be like, no, you don't get it. At the end of the game, they finally came together. No, because in the sequels... Oh my god, there were sequels.
Yeah.
Like, the first thing, or like, I think you play as, like, Snow or something, and you eventually find Lightning. The first thing that...
Snow.
Yeah, but the first thing that happened when Snow and Lightning meet each other for the first time after the events of that game, you know what Lightning does?
Punch him?
She pops him in the jaw! And you're gonna tell me that they had some, like...
No, don't get me wrong. On a personal level, I enjoy seeing Snow get punched in the face.
Yeah,
because he's a horrible character. He's a horrible human being. He's not a hero.
Yeah, neither is Lightning.
At all. But, I mean, yeah, true, neither is Lightning. But, you know, if somebody's gonna get hurt, even if it means another person I hate doing the hurting, then, hey, fine with me. I still get to see Snow get punched.
But either way, I'm just saying, like, that alone just shows you that they don't like each other.
Yeah. Except for maybe Vanille, because, you know, she's, like, the kind of person, you know, I mean, like...
She would make friends with the freaking lamppost.
It's so weird how I still found Vanille overall worse character than good, because you know I'm all about the cuteness and sweetness, and when even Vanille, when it's too much even for me, you know there's a problem there.
Look, I'm gonna throw out that the only good character was Saz. Only one.
And even then, I mean,
and he's not even that good of a character. But, like, he's the only person that I really felt his plight, you know? That with his son and everything, like, that was, like, the only, like, the whole thing with, like, you know, Hope and his mom dying as a result of Snow's negligence and it's just...
That was, like, criminal negligence. That wasn't even...
Also, Shiva was a pair of sisters that would scissor each other to turn into a motorcycle!
Yep.
That happened!
You heard it here, folks. That happened.
That game was just terrible.
It's horrible.
It's terrible.
It was the only Final Fantasy in the main series, and I'm not going to count 11 or 14. I'm not going to be unfair and say, oh, they suck just because they were MMOs. I didn't play them. It's not fair to make a judgment on them. Final Fantasy 13 is the only one in the main series, if you take out like the direct sequels, like 10-2, 13-2, 13-3, and I didn't play the latter two on that anyway. It's the only one in the series, in the main numerical series, that's actually bad. Or even just okay. The others, I think, are at least a little bit above okay, if not really good, if not excellent. Final Fantasy IX, aside from Chrono Trigger, is my favorite game of all time.
Yep, Final Fantasy just... It's like a purebred series. Like it...
So out of, like, a total of 13 games I'm judging here because we're going up to 15. I'm excluding 11 and 14 because I haven't played them. 13, there's only one game that is more on the bad side than good.
Yep, I agree.
With most of the remainder actually being really good, if not great. Like that's because Final Fantasy 13 was the worst in every like general category. Music track was the worst, the least memorable. The party of characters was the worst. Some of them just outright contemptible.
Yeah.
The battle system was the worst, the most boring by far, and the story was by far the worst. All 4 of those, it was the worst in the series.
Like we were talking off camera about Final Fantasy VIII and how, or what, that might have been on camera. I can't really remember now. But like,
yeah, we were talking about Final Fantasy VIII like almost right before this.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then we did some more Spoony moments for a while, and then we got into Final Fantasy.
But yeah,
13.
Final Fantasy VIII, I have some serious issues with Final Fantasy VIII story, like to the point where like a fan theory is a better story than the actual game presented, right?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VIII still better than 13 in story.
It's still way better.
Yeah,
I would go so far as to say way better.
Yeah. It's just
like the ultimate goal, the ultimate like conflict in FF8 story is what was bad.
I mean,
but it's been so much time focusing on all the other stuff before that, like individual events, stuff like that. Like those things in terms of the story, for the most part, I really like. I liked, the thing about CDs being trained to, go up against the sorceress one day. The sorceress is like, the historical threat to the world. Fighting Edea, being in conflict about, the fact that she was somebody they once knew. She really can't help who she became. And you know what? You can make fun of Squall and Renoa's love story in a lot of ways, and Spoony did, and he was right. He was right to do it.
Right.
For the most part. Even then, I'll cheer for that romance over a lot of different, a lot of other romances I've seen in fiction. So, and certain little events here and there, I really liked in the game. Like, Laguna, Spoony had a lot of gripes with constantly going back to Laguna, Kairos, and Ward, but I think that did tie into the game rather well. I mean, you kind of had to know about these guys, even though kind of what they were involved in, the stuff you saw them doing really didn't seem to make much sense.
Correct.
I mean, 'cause, just one of those things, like, you think about this in the real world, and it's like, so these guys were just lost in a forest, and as soon as they come out on the other side, they just head right back into town, catch a jazz piano act.
Yep.
And they talked about how they were in the middle of war. Like, they were supposed to be fighting, like, a front somewhere, and they got lost in this forest nearby. And instead of, like, returning to their... But I still like the fact that, you learn about Laguna, his romanticism, his ideologies, his, through, like, his crush on Julia, the piano singer that he was wanting to go see. I did like that. So... And... Again, I know it is the ultimate convenient writing. I totally understand that. But the sentiment of the scene and the way it was like shot, the way it was portrayed, especially with the music. Amy is it is my favorite video game track of all time. The piano theme that plays at some particular parts, but the thing that's probably most known for is playing during the scene where you go back to Selphie's garden, Trabia, and find that it had been hit by the missiles. I understand your gripe with Selphie. I understand. How can you not feel for her, though? At least a little bit at that scene.
Yeah, sure.
And I loved how, she was finding her friends who survived the blast, reuniting with them, and then they slowly start to learn through Irving, because he was the only one who remembered. It's dumb. It's dumb that, like, junctioning with GF somehow, like, takes over a part of your brain that controls memories, like memory function. I get that. That's way too convenient, That's what I meant by stupid. It's like stupid on the level of like, okay, how convenient and easy writing is that? I understand that. But that was outweighed by the drama, the emotional weight that the scene carried. And I think it was shot really well. I think the dialogue was actually pretty good. And I felt for the characters in the middle of it. And really, most of the time, that's all I need. That's probably the biggest reason I love Wild Arms 1 so much, why it's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, is because I feel for the characters. I sympathize with them on a level that I very, very rarely do in any other game. Being able to care about the characters is a huge plus.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the music that will often accompany like scenes where they're going through some kind of trauma, just in some kind of drama in some way or another, that often really sells it. When I went through Wild Arms again for the first time in like a decade, just now, just all over again, even though I've played through this game probably total of as much as 10 times in my whole entire life. I'd say at least 5, if not 10. So I knew it was going to happen. You know, I know what's coming up, all that kind of stuff. And it still hits me when Ruby is banished from the village that he just saved from a monster because they feared the power that he used so much. And he feels like so rejected, like such a loner, like a monster in everybody's eyes when he was just trying to do the right thing.
Much like Faye and Lahan.
Yeah, because we were playing Xenogears just now.
Like we were playing through it, and anytime we could bring up the fact that he slaughtered half the people in his
village,
village,
we were doing it as a joke, not like you know, we really do sympathize with Faye on that, at least on that front. I think overall I didn't really like him as a character, but you know, I understand. So
oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And I am low on HP. I might have to. You know what? No, I'm gonna go for it, and then heal, and just hope that I make it. I just don't want. It's like the opportunity for a moon cannon shot. I just don't want to pass it up. You know, I might regret it, might not. Who knows? Let's find out.
Faye, you should probably go do this. Who, me? No, the other guy I've been traveling with that didn't slaughter half the village.
But the track that plays, I think it's called "So Alone in the World." It's perfectly titled, if I got that right. That plays when Ruby is banished from the village. God, it just jerks at my heartstrings. I was like, like reaching my hands out to the screen to give I wanted to give Ruby a hug.
Oh boy, you are low on it. You have like 1,000 HP left. Nope, you're dead.
He got his second turn in before I got mine.
Well.
And it's just like a restart.
Well,
we're having good conversation. I'm not upset about it.
I was like, I saw you survive with like 1,000 HP left, and I'm like, wow, you really just handled that just right, didn't you? Oof.
I can't do the Moonstone Cannon this turn anyway, so.
But yeah, at least looking towards the future, I am pretty excited about how Final Fantasy XVI has been presented. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it, but I'm hopeful. Like, I thought 15 was pretty good.
Yeah.
And 16 looks like it's going to be...
15 was by far not the best. Oh, I forgot. I didn't start with full HP in this battle. I was like, wait, what? But 15, I think I give it like a B-, possibly a flat B. But that's really stretching it. So that's not that great, but that is such an improvement over 13. 13, I give it 2. 2.5 at the absolute highest. And that is about as low a F as you can get in my book. That's you at least wrote your name correctly at the top of the test paper. That's that level of...
And I gotta tell you, like, I did not like... So, out of the cast of 15, I wasn't a fan of Prompto at the beginning. But by the end of the game, after all of his, like, major story arcs, I came around.
I could not feel for him.
I came around.
Yeah.
So
Yet.
I can at least say that I liked all the characters in Final Fantasy. Like, there was only 4, sure, but I think that they were all good characters. And look, I'm just gonna say right now, I'm about to spoil the entire ending of Final Fantasy 13, or 15. So
Don't insult 15 like that.
yeah,
bro.
I know, right? But at the end of the game, yeah, you know, it pretty much saved the world and everything, but all 4 characters die. Well, I mean, so like the Noctis. There's an argument that maybe Noctis and his wife didn't die, but everybody else did. Personally, the way I interpreted it is nobody made it out. Like, that's it. It's just like, and what really got me was there was a post-credit scene where it backed up in time, where they had like this last campfire before making the final push to the final dungeon, and it was heart-wrenching. Like, it invokes emotion in a way that I don't think Final Fantasy ever has, and I loved it.
So you're basically like what I was when Rudy, you know, gets banished from the village in fear-filled hatred.
Yeah.
Just like you're just like he's just making that what did Dane Cook call it? Like, he called it, in his case, a concerned moan, which you're not really doing. Like the sympathetic, just, you know, but indistinguishable words you can't.
Because the thing was, it was like in that cutscene, the post-credit cutscene, it's like they knew that they weren't going to make it, right?
Right.
So, and it was them coming to terms with it. And the thing is, you do the entire game where you have like when you, so the way Final Fantasy 15 works is you don't get experience as you're killing things. You like store it up, and then you cash it in when you camp for the night, and that's when you get all.
Or spend a crap ton of money at a fancy hotel, and it's like somehow the luxurious accommodations
right
made you, you know, take in like double experience somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting thing.
Yeah,
but the thing is, like,
I mean, yeah, and you had to fork over some dough for that, so it's not like you know, not just like a super easy way to grind up levels.
But the mechanic, well, but generally, it kind of made this like ebb and flow of the game where it's like you're adventuring together, and then at the end of the day, you guys like settle down and camp together, and you know, it really started feeling like this like routine and like this like relationship that they really were sharing.
Yeah.
So you've had hundreds of campfires by this point. So this one, at the end of the game, post-credit, knowing that it's their last time to do this together, right? It just had this finality to it that like that almost you could almost physically feel like heavy on your chest, and like that's so few stories actually make me feel like that.
I should have gotten the old man, the guy with the swords.
Old man.
Yeah, old man. I should have gotten to use his special ability to bring my attack up, because I just saw at the last second after I'd already chosen everything that I'd get a Moonstone Cannon next turn. Probably would have moved things along.
The first slot.
Yeah.
No, it's unfortunate.
And I really love the rendition of Stand By Me if they did.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, I would
absolutely.
have been inclined to think normally at the beginning, like, that doesn't really belong in a Final Fantasy game, but no,
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
It's good. It's good. Man, that was just
Hopefully
so good.
Otis Redding is not turning over in his grave right now.
And I will say,
Actually, I have no idea if that dude's alive or not.
yeah. But I will say, like, so it seems to me like Final Fantasy does one of two time zones. Either it's like medieval, like that's just, or it's like unspecified future-esque, you know, like technology is like super advanced.
Yeah.
but there's no in between. It's either just like medieval, or this unspecified kind of futuristic kind of like you know Final Fantasy X kind of did this like futuristic kind of stuff and
actually I mean, really only kind of futuristic looking environment or getting the feel of anything like real technological was the temples.
Yeah.
With their dumb puzzles. But like most of the outside world, I'd say that was real like kind of fantasy setting.
I mean,
classic.
Yeah. But 15 kind of fell into that later kind of like more futuristic or modern. But 16 is going back to like medieval, like straight up like.
Are we going back to the past?
Ye olde timey.
To play the shitty
games
RPGs
that suck. I'd rather have a buffalo.
When Eco-Raptor was making like do an impression of all the AVGN knockoffs that weren't just like, oh hey, I want to review bad games and movies too one day. It was just like, no, I want to act just like him, make his kind of jokes.
Actually,
so it comes off as trying way too hard.
I think he was actually mocking one guy in particular.
Who?
What was his name?
The irate gamer,
yeah,
the one that basically took his name
yeah.
straight from.
It was supposed to be irate
gamer. And you know what?
Gamer.
For a very short time, like very shortly after, you know, pretty much very shortly after we even discovered that, you know, like internet reviewing was even a thing. Like after just now discovering Spoony AVG and all that, I followed him mildly for a very short period of time, and I distinctly remember a couple videos, and I was like, yeah, he's okay. But no, the more I think about it, no, that he was just straight up copying.
Oh yeah,
James Rolfe,
the angry video game nerd and the irate gamer.
I mean, he definitely disappeared into obscurity even before, like Spoony did, just under different circumstances. But I mean, in a sense, Spoony is actually the opposite of obscure. There's still so many fans who are still wondering about what he's doing, how he's ever going to get better, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I think
dude, there's like an entire like Reddit community dedicated to like what's been going on in his personal life. Is he ever going to get better? And talking about the old times, and I wish he'd go back, you know, to this state, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's how, like, looking through that briefly, you know, a short time ago, that's how I knew about like, his girlfriend leaving him and eventually, like, his house foreclosing on him.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, as long as it keeps him from, like, doing full, like, going straight to suicide, in that sense, I'm glad he's with his parents. It might be humiliating, it might be embarrassing to have your parents still taking care of you at 40, but they can probably keep him from, you know, going that far. It's definitely not a good time to be alone. You know, still in it, like stewing in his own house that's about to close down on his ass, you know? Because he's not taking in any form of income except, like, I don't know, it was like a few $100s from the few fans that still, you know, have this glimmer of hope. Basically just giving him charity on Patreon, but that's not gonna get you through. You can't live off of that. Nobody can. So.
Well, and here's the thing. I just gonna throw this out there, right? The reason why there's that community in Reddit on Reddit and that are the few on Patreon is because he made good content, and people would love to see it happen again.
Yeah.
Like,
they don't want to think about him becoming like this uber depressed, just broken down, miserable, and who's often like taking it out on other people, been an asshole to him. You don't want to think of him as that guy. You want to think of him as
how he knew him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say how we knew him, but the persona he put up in videos isn't, you know, who Noah really is, but it's just that, I don't know. It's just
Highlander the Source is still going to be the best review of all time of any reviewer, and I'm a fan of quite a few. I mean, I keep up pretty, like, essentially with Cinema Snob, and I pretty much dropped Nostalgia Critic. But I mean, in terms of like seeing reviews from him, like old stuff, like I still go back. I still have plenty from Spoony and Critic. And I just try not to think about all that personal drama you would, you heard about over the years.
Down the rabbit hole video on Noah was, there was some stuff that just should not have been said.
I don't really remember like what all was in there. I know I saw it.
Well, all right,
because I think that was like back in 2018.
There was one all right, so like there was a bunch that was said, and I highly recommend going to Fredrik's channel and watching that video, the Down the Rabbit Hole video on Noah Antwiler.
I'll put all these links down below.
You're not. You're gonna forget, but
I'm not forgetting your review.
Okay.
I'm telling you that right now.
All right, but
Parasite Eve 3 is the worst freaking game of all time. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you were saying?
I'm sorry. I lost
Woo!
track.
Foul.
But like one of the things he said was that there's like a, God, I have so many thoughts that are colliding at the same time. So the critic had a website that had it was more like a collaboration with a bunch of users, right? You had Nostalgia Critic, Nostalgia Chick, you had Wario, Juario, Noah Antwiler. There's just
there were a ton of guys.
Just a huge assortment of people, and that did for that what was it called? Channel Awesome? Yeah. Well, one of the things is what Noah said about one of the female members of Channel
I heard
Awesome.
that Jessu Otaku. She was one of like the people who reviewed anime. As far as I know, it was like she and Bennett the Sage were the anime reviewers.
Yeah,
and she eventually became a man. I was like, okay, I don't understand why that's how it ends for Jesse, but sure.
But regardless, Noah ended up putting out a tweet about how
it was basically a rape joke.
Yeah, and that's kind of the.
And the thing is, that didn't seem well. I mean, I guess for a lot of people that know this like even more personally than we do, that followed him even closer, like every little event of his life that they could possibly get wind of. Like, I'm sure that was not even the start of a decline, but to me it was like that was long before he even just I think that was like 2012, and I know he was putting out good reviews at a pretty good pace for at least another 2 years after that, before it just seemed like he pretty much just dropped off completely into just spiraling down to out of control depression, where he can barely function in daily life outside the camera, much less get all this work done for reviews and stuff. But it seemed like, well, I don't know the ultimate point I was gonna make there. I guess other than that, like, that didn't even seem to be like when he truly just dropped away completely, because I know he still went on for a good while with reviews, and it seemed like for the most part that was resolved. Like, the way I remember, it was something like Jessie just didn't even really take great offense at it. She just kind of tweeted back like, "Are you okay?" Like, thinking that something was generally wrong with him, and it was like somebody else that started up his drama for her, like on her behalf, which I kind of understand to a certain degree, because it's like it was a rape joke and that's just not cool.
It's not.
But yeah, and I guess ultimately, like, Spoony got defensive about it when like this other person like takes up the fight for Jesse and calls him out on it and all that stuff. He gets defensive about it, and then of course it just continues to get worse from there, because nobody's ever willing to bend and say I'm sorry in these kind of things.
Yeah. And I think the true drop off for him is when he stopped. Well, of course it was when he stopped making reviews. But
yeah, I think like the very last one, and I do have this. It was like I had like this The very last one technically was actually in 2016, where he reviewed a couple more Red Brown movies and then called it quits. Like, it seemed like...
Oh, was that for his Rebuary?
Yeah.
Series?
And like, at the end of the second one, it seemed like he was hanging it up for good, just the way he signed off on that review. Not just on Red Brown, not just for Red Brown movies, but
for
period. But
yeah.
you know what? He seemed okay. He seemed totally okay. I still got, you know, pretty much the same feel of quality out of that review. Out of those two. But when it was like, he definitely became scarce, if not dropped off completely, was like at the beginning of 2015 with Massacre at Central High, which was also a gem, if you remember. Like, you remember Massacre at Central High?
Yeah.
You need to go see that one again. That was...
But yeah, eventually he stopped doing reviews and he started doing like commentary on wrestling or something.
Oh no, he'd always been doing that.
Oh.
Like like on the side, like always.
Oh, gotcha. Because that
was, I think that was pretty much since the beginning. At the very latest, I'd say 2009, which I think he started in 2007. So that was always a thing.
Oh. Well, I guess once his reviews stopped, that's the only thing I saw, and I was like, wow, this is what he's doing now.
I know
okay.
he wasn't putting out anything, period. Even just like the vlogs, like just talking in front of the camera type reviews. Like, he wasn't doing anything after Massacre at Central High other than those last two Red Brown movies the next year. That was it.
Don't die again.
Oh, I got a complete hill in the works.
Okay, I'm just making sure, because that was a long time to get back to where you were.
Yeah, ship battles. It was definitely interesting. New territory as far as I know. It's just they can really drag out. But overall, I'm gonna say I'm happy with the idea.
Yeah.
It's like the originality of it kind of supersedes the fact that the drawbacks to it, which is pretty much just the slowness.
There we go. I
mean, like, honestly, the only reason I just wasn't paying attention because we were just sitting here talking, but healing especially completely, immediately, like, getting good access to healing is super easy in ship battles in this game.
And yet you died.
Like the complete kits, that restore 50,000 HP for me now, they're like $500 in the shop. I mean, no problem.
You bet.
Merity. Oh. Alright. Well, no damage for a whole turn. Let's actually just do a torpedo and spear it up to ensure we have enough for moon
the
cannon
cannon next turn. Yeah, that might be it.
I know this isn't supposed to be a ship so much as a flying fortress, but I still hate the Hydra. I still hate its design. Its tackiness, it just seems suitable for a man like Galcian. And yes, I was deliberately starting to talk like older cinema snob.
Yep. You know what? I think next week I will make an effort to go through the Ultima series again. The Spoony videos.
Yeah.
Not the actual series. You can't play all of them in a week.
You can try. I mean, when you get right down to it, like, I guess if you compare it to, like, say, total number of videos he ever made, like, actual reviews, not just vlogs or something, where he was talking about wrestling or his not online, like, tabletop role-playing days, those were, whatever. Just all the actual reviews and stuff, like, if you compared that to the number of, say, like, what the Cinema Snob has put out, and he started out about the same time, then Spoony actually does not have many videos at all.
Yeah.
I think Cinema Snob is like on 600 now.
Oh, man.
He definitely, In terms of quantity of content, he puts it out. Oh, like even an older. I love it in reviews when like the reviewers will take digs at each other.
Yeah.
They'll remind you of like they'll make references to another reviewer and in a certain video he did at some point, like in Final Fantasy X-2 review, Spoony, you know, says something about, you know, if I wanted to see like imagery, you know, like this dark and like obscure, like hard to see, something like that. I don't remember what scene in FF10. I would watch the Cinema Snob's old reviews. BAM! I was like, you know, and I bet Brad Jones saw that and he was like, you got me. That asshole got me.
I've seen some of his old reviews, and boy howdy.
Oh, the first 2 or 3 years, it was just like the sound quality was so bad. He didn't have his beard. He didn't have the demeanor that he had done. It was more like just angry cussing for the most part in those days. And again, yeah, and worst of all, the lighting was really bad.
By the way, all these people owe James Rolfe something. Like, yeah, they basically did for movies what James did for video games. Hey!
And now that Hydra has been pretty much immobilized, or a shield down or something, we're gonna...
Self-destruct sequence has been activated.
No, we're gonna hop in.
I know.
How?
Let them escape. How are they gonna escape? Ugh! Good gracious, that took a long time. Hey, more capture stripes. Make sure you use them.
What's with that face?
I do not know.
No, they're not gonna get away, Ica. Don't be such a kiss-lipped steamhead.
We were playing Xenogears earlier.
Yeah, what if you ended up just shooting your lifeboat out of the sky?
They're playing triumphant music, so it can't hit.
Vice is pretty confident that he's gonna dodge every last one.
Why did he pull out his weapons to land?
I mean, just in case maybe there are some soldiers that are waiting
so.
for you, right? Whoa, whoa, whoa! 3 more guys? Talk about a difficulty spike. Oh.
Hey, Enrique. Iglesias.
Well, how did Enrique get here? Was he prisoner?
No.
I don't remember. Was he on my ship?
Was he?
Yeah, he was with us. Okay,
yeah,
I guess he just came down with me and just...
Yeah, he was on the boat, or he's on your ship.
Yeah, did you remember where that was from? Yeah, this is how often I've seen, you know, most of Spoony's reviews was like Final Fantasy 13 when they're getting onto the ship to rescue like some of their friends, and that's where the ultimate like betrayal is revealed. The Bartanulus, he's a Fal'Cie, he can talk.
Oh yeah, they can speak.
But yeah, it was like they talked about setting up a trap for the heroes. The heroes I use in quotations there. And, you know, it was like, it ended up being just like 3 regular soldiers coming out to meet them as soon as they landed. And it was like, oh, okay, upgrade, you know, like the emergency code to yellow from red.
Yeah.
Which didn't really make any sense. And it was like, they encounter 3 more soldiers. Spoonie's like, it's not like a giant, you know, like super weapon they have hidden somewhere that's coming out to attack a boss fight of any kind.
Nope,
it's just regular
3.
soldiers. And he's like, what? Whoa, whoa, whoa! 3 more guys? Talk about a difficulty spike. No, you ain't seen difficulty spike until you played the last dungeon of FF2.
Oh, right?
Where the Emperor, the final form of the Emperor is literally 10 times stronger than his previous self that you fought just 2 dungeons ago.
And we mean the real Final Fantasy 2, not
okay,
Final
guys.
Fantasy 4.
I gotta get home. Lance has got to get to sleep because he actually has a normal work schedule.
Yep.
So we're gonna go ahead and call it here, and Well, that was a good chat.
Yeah,
I
I hope
somehow,
you don't mind the video that's just the Hydra fight.
Yeah. So I hope y'all somehow enjoyed the commentary too, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, later, guys.